The first step is to make poolish, a starter mix, using some yeast, a little sweetness such as this barley malt powder, or some honey, and unbleached flour. So we'll just sort of estimate that as such a small amount. I'll just use a quarter teaspoon, heap it up, maybe a little bit more. And then we'll whisk that a bit. And then we'll add the 4 cups of water. Here's 2 cups. Add it all at once. And whisk this for about a minute or more, just to get rid of all of the lumps of it. If there's any small ones, they'll dissolve while we leave it set for. You have to leave this set after you mix it for 3 to 5 hours until it's bubbly. We need to cover our mix with plastic. So I just generally use this 13-gallon plastic sack. Put it in here. Then use a tie wrap to secure it. And we'll put it over near a window where it's warmer. And we've got that 3 to 5 hours to let it sit then to do its fermenting. Okay, I think we're all ready to start here. You're supposed to keep that poolish resting for 3 to 5 hours. It's now 4.5 hours. It's about the consistency of thick cream. So we'll start ladling it out into 4 different containers. I'll freeze 3 of them, and I'll use 1 of them tomorrow morning for making the dough and 10 to 12 bagels. Okay, so we'll start here. I'll weigh it out, each one, about 12 ounces. It's not critical. Now, make that read 0 when that's on there, so that now when I see 12 ounces appear on the reading, I'll know I'm ready. Nine, 1180, oh, it's pretty close. 12, a little over 12 ounces, so that one's all set. Put it on. So now we've got the 4 at 12. I'm going to freeze 3 of them, and this 4th one I'll just put it in the refrigerator overnight, and we'll start on the bagel dough tomorrow. Okay, this is the next day. We've had our sponge overnight in the refrigerator. And so I'm going to start preparing the dough. The only unusual ingredient that maybe you don't have in your cupboard is barley malt. We use a tablespoon and a half of this in the amount of dough that I want to mix. You can also substitute honey, slightly more honey. Use 2 tablespoons of honey. And of course the unbleached flour. And you prepare a little bit more of a yeast mixture to spike up the dough. You recall we only had a very small amount of yeast in the original sponge that we mixed up and put in the refrigerator. So we have 3/4 of a teaspoon of additional yeast in here, and it's in 3/4 of a cup of water, and I mix that up and warm water, and it's been sitting now for 15 minutes, which is what I wanted. And I've mixed up the 5 1/4 cups of flour and the 1.5 tablespoons of the barley malt syrup, not syrup, powder, and a tablespoon of salt. It's all in the recipe. I'll tell you how to get that later. Okay, so this is all set, and I'm going to mix the dough with a proper amount of water in this 6-quart KitchenAid mixer, fixed stand mixer. So I just have to reorient my workspace here to get going. So okay, we're all set here. I've got my yeast mixture, the mixed flour. I'm going to use the KitchenAid fixed stand mixer. I like to start adding the liquid ingredients and mixing initially with by hand. You can use a paddle, but I find it works better for me to mix it by hand, and then because it's rather a stiff dough, stiffer than your average bread dough. And then I'll go to the machine and use this dough hook, and it'll still be a big job for the mixer. Okay, so initially we just pour in the yeast mixture, and then this is the sponge mix that we had overnight in the refrigerator. 12 ounces of sponge mix. So we'll open this. It's just it's sort of separated, but it'll all get mixed up in the batch here. All right. So the thick creamy consistency. A little bit stiffer than cream. Now we'll get that mixed up initially with by hand. So here you can see perhaps the stiffness of it. We get at least a hint of moisture in all the dry ingredients. It's sort of hanging together now. All right. Get started on the power mixing. All right, we'll have about a medium speed to begin with. And I'm going to finish up preparing the dough by hand. I'll get it mixed as much as I can without putting the machine under too much load. And then I'll put it on a board and we'll continue by hand. That's looking good. Okay, we're about there, and we're going to switch. Okay, so here we go with the dough. To form the initial pieces that we'll use for the bagels. I just a couple of minutes on this here, I guess it'll be all right. So the width of this board must be about 16 inches or something like that. I'm trying to get a uniform diameter in it. halfway for one log. That one feels a bit heavier. Let's see. 3. I'm just doing this by eye. This one has to be a little bit longer because it is end. So that's a little long. Not so long. 3, 4, 5. Now, since you're watching, okay, 2 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there we have about our 10 bagels. Sometimes I get bothered by these corners. They say now the next step is to roll it into a ball. Just cup it in your hand and roll it around. But you can never really get rid of the edges to get a totally round ball. I form it a little bit in my hands. Okay, here's how the process goes for the forming the bagels. I've already done some of them, but I'll do a couple here just to show you. I use the method of punching through with your thumb. You just take the ball, punch through with one thumb, gradually work in the other thumb, keep twisting the bagel around between your fingers to form it. So you have both thumbs in there, working it around. You have about 1.5 inch hole developed there. And that's all right. And now we're going to do, you get best results if you let it wait. After the 1.5 hour rise, let it wait in the refrigerator for overnight, and then we'll go into the boiling, putting them in boiling water for a minute on each side, and then taking the tray. And I put the bagels directly on some baking stones in the oven. The oven is at 500 degrees, and we'll go through that step tomorrow. Okay, I'll try this camera here. We've just finished boiling the bagels. 1 minute on a side. Just use a slotted spoon to put them in their bath. Sprinkled on some poppy seed. Now we're ready to put them in the oven. Okay, I'm going to transfer these by hand into the oven. You see I have my 6-inch square ceramic tiles in the oven in the middle shelf. So I'll just go ahead and get that tray down here and just transfer them by hand, lay them out on those tiles for baking. Okay, so there we are, we're all set. We'll bake these for 15 minutes. Okay, so we've taken them out of the oven. They're looking good. I leave them in a little bit longer than they recommend, 12 minutes on this recipe, but I left them in for 15 minutes. I like it to get a little bit more of a brown than it had at 12. So that's looking good. Okay, this will just give you an idea how well they turned out for crumb, as they say. So here's the one of the larger ones I made. And I don't know if you can see this too good, but this has a nice firm crumb, nice porosity, evenly distributed. Should be good.